As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the bustling streets of New York City, a young girl named Lily set up her small spot on the sidewalk and stepped into the small circle of light cast by a nearby street lamp. Her voice, sweet yet powerful, seemed to echo the struggles of those around her. With every chord she poured her heart into the song, a desperate plea for understanding and connection. The small crowd, initially drawn in by curiosity, found themselves captivated by her raw talent. "Who is she?" a woman whispered to her companion, her eyes wide with surprise. "I don't know, but she's incredible," the man replied, nodding as he tossed $1 into her open guitar case. Lily's eyes sparkled as she glanced at the donations, but they also reflected a deeper worry. Each note she played was not just a performance, it was a lifeline for her ailing mother Evelyn, who lay bedridden at home. The medical bills had been piling up, and Lily knew that every dollar mattered. As she sang, she thought of her mother's frail figure, the way her skin clung tightly to her bones, and the hollow cough that echoed through their small apartment. "Don't give up on me, Mom," Lily whispered under her breath, her voice barely audible above the music. With each strum, she channeled her love and hope into the melody, wishing it could somehow reach her mother and ease her suffering. In the gathering crowd, a man stood, transfixed by the performance. Charles, a wealthy businessman in his late 40s, had recently lost his own mother to an illness that had drained both her vitality and his family's resources. He leaned against a nearby lamppost, his heart aching as he listened to Lily's song. It was as if she were singing directly to him, her voice weaving through his memories of sorrow and loss. "God, it's like she knows," he murmured to himself, feeling a strange connection to this girl he had never met. He could see the determination in her eyes, the fierce spirit that drove her to sing on the streets, despite the challenges she faced. As Lily reached the climax of her song, her voice soared, filling the air with a sense of yearning and hope. The crowd was silent now, completely enthralled. Charles felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, and he blinked them away, unsure of why he was so moved by this young girl's performance. Perhaps it was a reminder of his own mother, or the weight of regret that he carried. When she finished, the crowd erupted into applause, and Lily's face lit up with a radiant smile. In that moment she felt seen and valued, if only for a brief time. She bowed her head slightly, clutching her guitar tightly as people began to disperse, some approaching to drop money into her case, while others simply walked away, their expressions touched by her music. Thank you so much," Lily called out, her voice bright with gratitude. As she began to pack up her things, her heart still racing from the performance, she hurried home, her mind flooded with thoughts. The familiar streets rushed by, the sounds of the city fading into a blur as she focused on the task ahead. "Mom, I'm home," she called, pushing the door open to their small apartment. "Lily, sweetheart, how did it go?" Evelyn's frail voice came from the bedroom, a weak smile breaking through her weariness. "I had a good crowd tonight," Lily replied, her voice brightening. "Someone even said I was incredible." She tried to keep the excitement in her tone, even as her heart ached at the sight of her mother. "Of course you were. You have a gift," Evelyn said, her eyes glistening with pride despite her condition. She reached out a trembling hand, and Lily rushed to her side, taking it gently in her own. "Did you eat anything today?" Lily asked, her brow furrowing as she recalled the small meals they had managed to scrape together. "Oh, just a little soup," Evelyn replied, waving her hand dismissively. "I'll be fine, dear. You just keep singing. That's what matters." Lily felt the familiar pang of guilt tug at her heart. "But I need to take care of you too, Mom. We can't keep living like this." Evelyn's eyes softened, the warmth of her love shining through. "You're doing so much already, Lily. Just keep your spirit alive. That's the most important thing." Lily swallowed hard, the weight of her mother's words settling heavily on her shoulders. As she sat beside Evelyn, she could see the toll that illness had taken on her mother, the hollowness in her cheeks, the weariness that never seemed to lift. "Mom, I promise I'll keep singing," "I'll make it work," she said, determination igniting in her chest. "I'll find a way to cover the bills. I won't let you down." Evelyn smiled gently, but the worry in her eyes was unmistakable. "Just remember, my love, that it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do it all alone." Lily nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling of pride that held her back. Asking for help felt like admitting defeat, and she wasn't ready to do that yet. Not when there was still music in her heart and a world outside that needed to hear it. She knew that her journey was just beginning, and the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But as long as she had her voice, she held onto the belief that she could change their story, one note at a time. As the bustling sounds of New York City began to fade into the night, the street lamps flickered to life. After another heartfelt performance, Lily stood amidst the remnants of her makeshift stage, a worn-out blanket spread out on the sidewalk and a weathered guitar at her feet. She felt the adrenaline of the crowd's applause still coursing through her veins, but the warmth was quickly replaced by the cold reality of her situation. The way the crowd responded to her voice gave her a glimmer of hope, yet the worries of her mother's condition loomed large in her mind. Charles watched from a distance, his heart heavy with the memories of his own loss. The young girl, barely more than a child, had a voice that cracked through the noise of the city, revealing a vulnerability that resonated deeply with him. He could see her things, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. He could feel the pull of an unexplainable urge to approach her, to offer some words of encouragement, or perhaps even a helping hand. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said, his voice steady yet warm, as he approached her. Lily looked up, her hazel eyes wide with surprise and suspicion. "I just wanted to say, you have an incredible voice. It really moved me." Lily hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't sing for compliments. I need to earn some money." Charles felt a pang of sympathy as he recognized the weight of her words. "I understand," he said gently, trying to ease her apprehension. "But you should know that your talent is rare. You have a gift." She was still wary. "Charles," he introduced himself, extending a hand. "I'm just someone who appreciates good music. And trust me, you have something special." After a moment's hesitation, she shook his hand, her grip surprisingly firm for someone so small. "I'm Lily," she replied, her voice gaining a bit of strength. "I sing to help my mom. She's sick." Charles' heart sank at her admission. "I'm sorry to hear that, Lily. How is she doing?" She's okay, I guess," she said, her eyes drifting to the ground. "But the bills are piling up, and the treatments, they're really expensive. I wish I could do more. Have you thought about other ways to raise money?" Charles asked, genuinely interested. "Maybe you could perform at local events or find a way to record your songs." Lily shook her head, her expression turning somber. "I don't know anyone who would help me with that. I'm just a girl who sings on the streets." "But you could be more than that," he pressed gently, sensing the flicker of doubt in her voice. "You have the talent to reach so many people. If you let me, I could help you find opportunities." His words ignited a spark of hope within her, but she quickly extinguished it with caution. "Why would you want to help me? People don't usually do that." "I know it sounds strange," Charles admitted, scratching the back of his neck. "But I recently lost my mother to illness and, well, I understand what you're going through. I just want to help someone who deserves it." Lily studied his face, searching for any signs of deception. There was a sincerity in his eyes that made her feel both safe and vulnerable at the same time. "I appreciate it, really," she said softly. "But I can't just take charity. I need to earn what I get." Charles nodded, respecting her pride. "I understand. I just thought maybe we could work together. Music is a powerful thing, and you shouldn't have to struggle alone." Lily sighed, feeling the weight of her circumstances pressing down on her. I don't know, she murmured, glancing at the guitar resting beside her. I'm just trying to do what I can for my mom. Then let's make a plan, he suggested, his voice imbued with enthusiasm. I can help you navigate the music scene, and you can keep singing on the streets until we find something more stable. You won't have to stop doing what you love. What would you want in return? She asked, her voice cautious but curious. Just your music, Charles replied, a warm smile breaking across his face. I love music, and I want to see you succeed. That's all I ask. An awkward silence fell between them, both lost in their thoughts. Finally, Lily spoke up. I'll think about it. But right now, I really need to get home. Of course, Charles said, stepping back to give her space. But please, don't hesitate to reach out if you change your mind. You have my card. He handed her a business card. I'll think about it. As she turned to leave, Charles felt an ache in his chest. He wanted to reach out, to offer her more than just words, but he knew he had to respect her boundaries. Take care of yourself, Lily, he called after her. I will, she replied, looking back for a moment before disappearing into the throng of pedestrians. In the days that followed, Lily found herself lost in thought about her encounter with Charles. She couldn't shake the feeling that he genuinely wanted to help her. Yet, the skepticism ingrained in her from a life of hardship held her back. Trust was a fragile thing, and she couldn't afford to be naive. The next evening, as she set up her spot on the sidewalk, she felt a rush of determination. She began to sing, pouring her heart into each note as the familiar rush of onlookers gathered around her. The music became her escape from the realities that plagued her mind. Later that week, she spotted Charles again among the crowd, a supportive smile on his face. After her performance, he approached her with a small bouquet of wildflowers. For you, he said, handing them to her. I thought they might brighten your day. Lily felt her heart swell at the gesture. Thank you, her cheeks flushing. They're beautiful. I'm glad you like them, he replied, his eyes sparkling with genuine warmth. How has it been since we last spoke? I've been singing, she admitted, her voice filled with pride. It helps me feel lighter. Good, he said, nodding. But remember, it's okay to ask for help, too. You don't have to carry everything alone. I know, she said, her voice softening. It's just hard for me. I understand, Charles said, his expression serious. But if you ever want to talk more about music or anything else, I'm here. Lily smiled, feeling gratitude and confusion. I appreciate that. I'll keep it in mind. As they parted ways, the weight of her decision lingered in the air. She knew she had to protect herself, but the idea of collaboration with someone who genuinely cared was tempting. As the sun dipped below the skyline, painting the buildings in shades of amber and rose, Lily found her familiar spot on the sidewalk once more. With her guitar slung across her shoulder, she took a moment to gather her thoughts, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her tiny frame. The crowds began to gather, drawn by the promise of her haunting melodies. Here we go again, she murmured to herself, a mix of anxiety and determination swirling inside her. She strummed her guitar, the first notes spilling into the air like droplets of color. Her voice followed, an ethereal sound that seemed to rise above the chaos of the city. As she sang, she poured out her heart, the lyrics weaving a story that connected with the souls of her listeners. Among the crowd was Charles, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the worn jackets of the other onlookers. He had taken to visiting Lily's performances regularly, drawn not only by her talent, but also by the fire in her spirit. He stood at the edge of the gathering, a silent observer, captivated by the emotion that radiated from her. Each note she sang was a reminder of the love he once had for his own mother, lost to illness, and his heart ached for the girl who stood before him, fighting for her own. As the final notes faded into the evening air, Lily's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces. A mix of applause and murmurs of appreciation washed over her, She slung her guitar over her back and hurried home. "Mom, I'm home," she called as she entered the small apartment. Evelyn lay on the couch, frail and pale, her eyes lighting up at the sound of her daughter's voice. "Lily, my sweet girl," Evelyn said, her voice soft but laced with concern. "How was it tonight?" "It was good, I think," Lily replied, forcing a smile. She moved closer, brushing a strand of hair from her mother's forehead. "I think I even saw a few familiar faces in the crowd." Evelyn's brow furrowed. "You're working so hard, but don't forget to take care of yourself too, dear. You're doing this for me, but I don't want you to burn out." Lily shook her head, a mixture of frustration and determination bubbling within her. "I can't stop, Mom. We need the money for your treatment. I'll find a way. I promise." Over the next few weeks, Charles became a fixture in Lily's life, a steady presence that offered her both friendship and encouragement. He would arrive at her performances, often bringing small gifts for Evelyn: flowers, a book, or a warm meal. Each time, Evelyn received him with gratitude, but there was an underlying suspicion in her gaze. "Why does he come here, Lily?" she asked one evening as they sat in the dim light of their living room. "What does he want from us?" "I don't know, Mom," Lily admitted, her brow creasing with worry. "But he's been kind. He just wants to help." "Be careful, sweetheart. Sometimes kindness has its price," Evelyn warned, her voice filled with a mother's instinct to protect. Despite her mother's concerns, Lily felt a connection with Charles that deepened with each passing day. They shared stories, dreams, and fears, finding solace in their conversations. One evening, after a particularly emotional performance, Charles approached her with a look of determination in his eyes. "Lily, I need to talk to you," he said, his tone serious but kind. "I've been thinking about your situation, your mother's health. It's not right that you should bear this burden alone." Lily's heart raced, a mix of hope and apprehension swirling within her. "What do you mean? Let me help you with the medical expenses." "I can cover her treatment," he offered, his gaze steady and sincere. "Can't just take your money, Charles. I have to earn it. I can't owe anyone anything." "Lily, this isn't about owing. It's about helping someone in need. I lost my mother too, and I know what it's like to feel helpless. Please let me help you," he urged, his voice filled with empathy. Tears brimmed in Lily's eyes as she struggled with the choice before her. "I appreciate it, I really do, but I can't. I need to do this on my own." Charles nodded, a shadow passing over his features. "I understand. Just know that I'm here for you no matter what you decide." As the days turned into weeks, the weight of Evelyn's illness hung heavier on Lily's shoulders. Each performance took more from her, and she began to doubt if her singing alone could cover the mounting medical bills. She would return home each night, exhausted, to find her mother's condition worsening. One evening, after a particularly emotional performance, Lily sat on the curb, her guitar resting in her lap, staring at the ground as tears streamed down her cheeks. The world around her blurred, the sounds of the city fading into a dull roar. Suddenly, she felt a familiar presence beside her. "Lily," Charles said softly, concern etched across his face. "What's wrong?" I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I'm scared, Charles, scared that I won't be able to save her." He sat down next to her, the warmth of his presence offering some comfort. "You're stronger than you think, but you don't have to do this alone. Let me help you. I can find a way to assist you without strings attached." Lily looked at him, the conflict within her growing. "What if I can't accept it? What if I feel like I'm losing myself in the process?" "Then we'll figure it out together," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "You're not alone in this fight, Lily." In that moment, she felt the weight of her pride clashing with her desperation. The thought of her mother suffering any longer was unbearable, but accepting help felt like a betrayal of all she had fought for. The internal battle raged on as the city buzzed around them, oblivious to the turmoil of her heart. "Just think about it," he urged gently, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I just want to see you both happy and healthy." As they sat in silence, the weight of her decision loomed over her, a painful reminder of the sacrifices she had made and the love she had for her mother. In that moment, the city lights glimmered like stars, and the music of her heart played a tune of uncertainty, one that would lead her down a path she had yet to imagine. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the New York skyline in hues of orange and purple, Lily stood outside her usual spot on the sidewalk, clutching the strap of her guitar. The evening air was cool against her skin, but the warmth of the recent days lingered in her heart. After weeks of performing alongside Charles, she had reluctantly accepted his help. It had felt like a lifeline, a chance to breathe amidst the suffocating weight of her mother's illness. She inhaled deeply, allowing the familiar rhythms of the city to wash over her. Tonight, she was determined to sing her heart out, channeling her emotions into each note. As she strummed the first chords of her song, a small crowd began to gather, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights. Charles stood at the edge, his presence both comforting and unsettling. He had become a fixture in her evenings, his encouragement a steadying force. But now, she felt the heavy weight of expectation settle on her shoulders. When the final note faded into the night, a round of applause erupted from the small audience. Lily's heart swelled with gratitude, but even amidst the praise, an echo of doubt lingered in her mind. She stepped off the makeshift stage, her heart racing as she approached Charles. "Thank you for being here," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "It means a lot." Charles smiled warmly, his blue eyes sparkling with admiration. "You were incredible, Lily. Your voice has a way of capturing the soul. Have you thought about what we discussed?" Lily nodded slowly, glancing at the ground. "I have. I just don't want to owe you too much. It feels strange accepting so much help. Sometimes, accepting help is the strongest thing you can do," he replied, his tone gentle yet firm. "You're not just helping yourself. You're helping your mother. You're giving her a fighting chance." She sighed, the weight of his words settling over her. "I know, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm taking advantage of your kindness." "Trust me, Lily. I want to help," he insisted, stepping closer, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "Let's think about this as a partnership. You focus on your music, and I'll ensure that your mother gets the treatment she needs. We can make this work." Lily looked up, searching his face for any hint of insincerity, but all she found was earnestness. "Okay, I'll try," she said hesitantly. "But I want to find a way to earn this. I want to contribute." "Then let's make a plan," Charles suggested, his excitement contagious. "We can set some goals for your music. Start with small gigs, maybe even some recordings. I can help you reach out to the right people." As they spoke, the conversation flowed easily, the tension of their earlier discussions fading into the background. Lily found herself laughing more than she had in weeks, her worries momentarily forgotten. They exchanged stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and the aspirations that had once seemed so far away. In those moments, she began to see Charles not just as a benefactor, but as a friend, a guiding light in her otherwise chaotic existence. However, as the days turned into weeks, the initial joy of their partnership began to wane. Lily could sense a shift whenever she returned home to her mother, Evelyn. The older woman's gaze was filled with a mix of gratitude and concern, a silent warning that made Lily's heart ache. "Lily, I'm glad that you have someone helping you," Evelyn said one evening, her voice weak but steady. "But you need to be careful. Not everyone who offers help has good intentions." "Mom, Charles is different," Lily replied, biting her lip. "He's been so kind, he really wants to help us. I know you want to believe that, but remember, honey, there's a fine line between kindness and manipulation. Don't let your guard down too easily." Lily nodded, but doubt crept into her heart. "I'll be careful, I promise." Yet as she turned away, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking a tightrope, balancing between hope for her mother's recovery and the precarious nature of her newfound relationship with Charles. One evening, as she prepared to head out for her performance, a letter arrived from the hospital. The envelope was thick, and Lily's heart sank as she recognized the logo emblazoned on its front. She tore it open, her hands trembling, and read the contents with growing dread. "Dear Miss Parker, we regret to inform you that the costs associated with your mother's treatment have increased significantly due to unforeseen complications. We encourage you to contact our billing department to discuss your options." The words blurred together, and Lily felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She blinked back tears, her mind racing. How could this happen? They had already been struggling to keep up with the expenses, and now this. She felt the weight of despair settle over her, a heavy cloak that threatened to suffocate her spirit. "Lily, are you all right?" Evelyn's voice broke through her thoughts, filled with concern. I just got a letter from the hospital," she stammered, her voice shaking. "They're saying it's going to be even more expensive than we thought." Evelyn's face paled. "What does that mean for us?" "I don't know," Lily whispered, her heart pounding. "I don't know if I can keep up with it. I thought with Charles' help, we'd be okay." "Charles." Evelyn's voice trailed off, a storm brewing in her eyes. "You need to be cautious, Lily. This isn't just about money, it's about your future too. Are you sure you can trust him?" Lily clenched her jaw, frustration bubbling to the surface. "He's been nothing but supportive. I can't just push him away." "Lily, I'm not saying to push him away, but to be aware of the possible consequences. You're young, and people can take advantage of that. Make sure you understand what you're getting into." Lily nodded, but her heart was heavy with uncertainty. That night, as she lay in bed, she replayed her conversations with Charles over and over in her mind. Was he really helping her, or was there something more sinister at play? The seed of doubt took root, and as she drifted into an uneasy sleep, she felt the shadows of her worries lurking just out of reach, waiting to catch her off guard. The next day, she found herself standing outside her usual performance spot, staring at the bustling crowd that had gathered. Charles was there, leaning casually against a lamppost, his eyes scanning the crowd in appreciation of her talent. For a moment, the warmth of their friendship enveloped her, but it quickly faded as the memory of the letter resurfaced. "Ready for tonight?" he called out, his voice bright and encouraging. Lily forced a smile, her heart heavy with the weight of unspoken fears. "Yeah, I am." As she began to sing, her voice wavered, the song filled with a newfound sense of urgency. She poured her heart into each note, letting the emotion take over. It was a desperate plea for hope, a cry for help that only the city could hear. But as she caught Charles's gaze, she couldn't shake the feeling that the very thing that had brought them together might also tear them apart. The performance ended, and the crowd erupted into applause. But Lily felt hollow inside, her mind racing with thoughts of her mother's treatment, and the letter that loomed over her like a dark cloud. As she stepped off the sidewalk, she found Charles waiting for her, his face alight with pride. "You were amazing, Lily. You've got such talent," he beamed, but she could see a flicker of concern in his eyes. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is everything all right?" he asked, his brow furrowing slightly. "You seem a bit distant tonight." Lily hesitated, torn between her instinct to confide in him and the nagging doubts that had taken root in her mind. I got a letter from the hospital," she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "They said the treatment is going to cost even more than we thought." Charles' expression shifted, concern deepening. "I'm sorry to hear that, Lily. I can help. We can figure something out." But as he spoke, a chill ran down her spine. The more he offered, the more she felt that familiar sense of unease creeping back in. "I just don't know. I don't want to become too dependent on you," she said, her voice wavering. "I just want to help," he insisted, his tone earnest. "You're doing incredible things, and I believe in you." Lily looked into his eyes, searching for the truth behind his words. But as she stood there, the shadows of doubt loomed larger than ever, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was teetering on the edge of a precipice, with her dreams and her mother's future hanging in the balance. "I have to get home, please," he pressed gently, stepping closer, his eyes pleading. "I know things are tough. Let me help." Lily felt a flush of anger rise within her. "Help? You've already helped too much," she snapped, her hands clenching around the strap of her guitar. "I can't keep relying on you." "I'm not asking you to rely on me," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But you don't have to face this alone. I can find a way to cover the costs." "I don't want your charity," she interrupted, the words spilling out before she could catch them. "I want to earn what I need for my mother. I'm not some charity case." Charles stepped back, visibly taken aback by her outburst. "Lily, that's not how I see you. You're talented and strong. I admire you for that." "Admiration won't pay the bills," she shot back, her eyes flashing with frustration. "You don't understand what it's like to watch someone you love suffer and not be able to do anything about it." "Then let me help you do something," he said softly, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You're not alone in this. I lost my mother too. It hurts like hell." Lily looked away, her heart aching. She could see the depths of his sincerity, but the weight of his offer felt like a double-edged sword. "I appreciate your support, Charles, but I have to do this my way." "Your way," he echoed, his brow furrowing. "What does that even mean if you're losing hope?" "It means I have to fight for my dreams," she said, her voice steadier now, but the tremor of uncertainty lingered. "I want to make a name for myself through music. I want my mother to be proud of me, not feel indebted to someone like you." Charles sighed, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I'm not asking for anything in return. I just want to see you succeed. You can still have your dreams and get the help you need for your mother. It doesn't have to be one or the other." For a moment, silence enveloped them, thick with unspoken fears and emotions. Finally, Lily broke it, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I fail? What if I can't keep my mother alive long enough to make my dreams come true?" "You won't fail. You're stronger than you realize," Charles replied, his confidence unwavering. "And you won't lose your mother either. I'll make sure of it." The intensity of his gaze made her heart race, but she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. "You don't know that. No one knows that." Charles stepped closer, his voice dropping to a tender hush. "Then let's work together. Let me be there for you, Lily." She weighed his words, the conflict raging inside her. On one hand, a part of her longed for his support, for the reprieve from her mounting burdens. But on the other, her pride held her back, a barrier of fear and stubbornness. "Okay," she said finally, the word coming out slower than she intended. "But I have to be clear. I can't take anything that comes with strings attached. I need to earn my way. I promise you, I'll support you in a way that respects your independence." That night, as the city lights twinkled around her, Lily felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Perhaps this partnership could work. Perhaps they could navigate this storm together. The next evening, Lily arrived at her usual spot, her heart lighter, but a nagging doubt still clung to her. She had shared her fears with Charles, but could she truly trust him? As she began to sing, her voice soared, intertwining with the rhythm of the bustling street. She poured her heart into every note, hoping to drown out the uncertainty. After her performance, Charles approached her with a bright smile. "You were incredible tonight. I have a surprise for you." "What is it?" she asked, curiosity peaking as she wiped the sweat from her brow. "I've set up a recording session for you," he announced, his eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. "You have a gift, and it's time the world hears it." Lily's heart raced, but a shadow of doubt crept in. "A recording session? You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted gently. "This is your chance, Lily. You need to seize it." As he handed her the contract, her fingers trembled slightly. She scanned the document, the excitement in her chest battling with apprehension. But as she read the fine print, her heart sank. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "'Tis standard contract for the recording session," Charles explained, his demeanor shifting as he noticed her growing unease. "This looks more like a binding agreement to become your property. That's not how it works," he insisted, stepping closer, concern etched on his face. "I thought you'd understand." "No," she interrupted, her voice rising in anger. "You don't get to decide for me what I should understand. This is a contract that ties me to you. It's just business, Lily." "You can't see it that way," he pleaded, desperation lacing his tone. "Business," she scoffed, her heart racing. "You're using my dreams against me. I can't believe you would do this." "I'm trying to help you. You don't understand what's at stake," he argued, frustration spilling over. Lily's hands shook as she fought back tears. "I thought you were on my side. I thought you wanted to support me. But all you've done is make me feel trapped." "Lily, please, listen to me," he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "I genuinely want to help you. I thought you wanted this opportunity." "I wanted to earn my way," she shouted, her voice breaking. "Not to be shackled by your generosity." The tension between them crackled like electricity, and for a moment it felt as if the whole world had fallen away, leaving only the tumult of their emotions. Lily's heart ached with betrayal, and she could see the hurt in Charles' eyes, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was trying to control her life in a way she couldn't accept. "Maybe we should take a step back," he said finally, his voice quiet, the fire in his eyes dimming. "Maybe we shouldn't have gotten this close in the first place." Lily shot back, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. As she turned away, leaving Charles standing in the glow of the streetlight, the weight of the contract still heavy in her hands, she felt the fragile threads of trust unraveling between them. Her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and betrayal, the argument with Charles echoing in her ears. How could he have offered her a contract that felt so constrictive, so laden with expectation? She felt as if she had been drawn into a web of deceit, where her dreams were nothing but pawns in a game she didn't want to play. She reached her usual spot on the sidewalk, the familiar crack in the pavement beneath her feet, the faded graffiti on the nearby wall. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over everything, but it felt more like a spotlight on her anguish. With a deep breath, she closed her eyes, letting the sounds of the city fade away. She needed to sing, needed to pour her heart out one last time, to reclaim the power that music had always given her. As she opened her mouth, the first notes spilled forth, raw and powerful. The song was one of longing and loss, reflecting every emotion that had been pent up inside her. The crowd that gathered was larger than usual, drawn in by the intensity of her performance. Each note resonated with the pain she felt, and she could see the faces of the onlookers transform, their expressions shifting from indifference to empathy. She sang for her mother, for the hurt she felt at Charles' betrayal, and for the dreams that now seemed so distant. "Wow, she's amazing," a woman whispered to her companion as she wiped away a tear. You can really feel the emotion in her voice. "Yeah, it's like she's singing just for us," he replied, visibly moved. Lily poured every ounce of her soul into the performance, transforming her heartbreak into art. The final note hung in the air like a breath held too long, and when it faded away, the street was silent for a moment. Then the crowd erupted into applause, cheers echoing off the buildings surrounding her. She opened her eyes, a sense of relief washing over her. But it was short-lived. The applause felt hollow in comparison to the turmoil inside her. As she gathered her things, her heart still racing from the performance, a figure stepped forward from the crowd. It was a tall man with kind eyes and an air of authority, someone she hadn't seen before. He approached her cautiously, as if he could sense the storm brewing within her. "Lily, right?" he asked, a warm smile breaking across his face. "I'm Mark, a talent scout. Your voice is incredible. Have you ever thought about recording professionally?" Lily blinked, stunned. I don't know. I mean, I've always dreamed of it, but—" "Listen," he interrupted gently. "I'm serious. You have something special. I'd like to offer you a contract, independent from anyone else. Just you and your music. No strings attached." Her heart leaped at the prospect. Could this be the break she'd been waiting for? It felt almost too good to be true, especially after the turmoil with Charles. "Really? You mean it?" "Absolutely," Mark replied, his enthusiasm infectious. "I believe in your talent. Let's get you in the studio and see what we can create together." Lily's mind raced. This was the opportunity she had longed for, a chance to pursue her dreams without the shadow of manipulation looming over her. "When do we start?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. "How about tomorrow? We can set up a meeting to go over the details and get you started on your first track." "Okay. Yes, that sounds amazing," she exclaimed, a smile breaking through her sadness. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered within her. As she turned to leave, she felt a surge of energy coursing through her veins. She couldn't wait to tell Charles about this new opportunity, to show him that she could make it on her own. She rushed to his office, her heart pounding with excitement and a hint of nervousness. However, as she entered the sleek building where Charles had his office, that excitement began to waver. The polished floors and glass walls felt cold and unwelcoming. She approached the receptionist, her anxiety creeping back. "I'm here to see Charles. Do you have an appointment?" the woman asked, her tone clipped. "No, but it's important," Lily insisted, her heart racing. "He'll want to see me." After a moment of hesitation, the receptionist picked up the phone and buzzed through to Charles' office. "There's a young lady here to see you, Mr. Henderson. She says it's urgent." "Send her in," came Charles' voice, and Lily felt a flutter of anticipation mixed with trepidation. As she entered his office, she was struck by the stark contrast between the warmth of their previous meetings and the cold clinical atmosphere of the room. Charles looked up from his desk, his expression shifting from surprise to a welcoming smile. "Lily, what a pleasant surprise. Come in." "Charles, I have incredible news," she began, unable to contain her excitement. "I met a talent scout, and he wants to sign me for a recording contract. I can finally pursue my dreams." His smile faltered for an instant before he masked it with feigned enthusiasm. "That's fantastic. I'm happy for you." "Thank you. I wanted to share it with you because you've been so supportive." She gushed, her heart soaring. "I'm finally going to make it." But then, as she glanced around the office, her gaze fell on a framed document on the wall behind him. The hospital's logo was unmistakable. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. "Charles, wait. What's that?" He turned to follow her gaze, and for a moment she saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear, perhaps. "Oh, that's just a partnership agreement," he stammered. "Nothing to worry about." Lily felt her heart plummet. "You're the owner of the hospital, aren't you?" "Lily, it's not what you think, not what I think," she interrupted, her voice rising. "You've been helping me because you own the place where my mother is being treated. You've been manipulating me this whole time." "Lily, please," he pleaded, his expression shifting to one of desperation. "I wanted to help you. I thought." "Thought what?" She shot back, fury mixing with heartbreak. "That I'd just be grateful forever? That you could buy my trust with money and favors?" Charles stood up, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "I care about you, Lily. I didn't intend for it to become this complicated. I wanted to support your talent because I believe in you. But you were using me." She spat, tears brimming in her eyes. "You made me feel like I could trust you, and now I see the truth. You've been playing me for your own gain." Lily turned on her heel, her mind racing. The excitement she had felt moments ago evaporated, replaced by a suffocating dread. She had come here to share her newfound hope, but instead she had uncovered a dark reality that threatened to engulf her. Now she stood on the precipice of a choice: follow her dreams, or confront the man who had deceived her. With every step away from his office, she felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. She would no longer let anyone dictate her path. The future was hers to claim, no matter the cost.